Hello everybody, and welcome to the first Sleepy Sunday stream of 2026. As you might be aware, I used to do these a bit more regularly, but because of, let's say, life and world stuff, I took a little break. I'm not sure if I'm going to get back full time into these, but I thought it was well worth time that we had a bit of a cozy puzzle solving adventure. And in particular, this thing down here, hello, has, shall we say, brought me out of my mini retirement. This is, I'm suspecting, something quite special. We actually have the designer of this, a Ladybus design, in the chat right now. But this is by the same person as who made Lock, Abdeck, and Work. Those are all originally rule discovery puzzle games, normally with a ring-bound book like this. In particular, one of them, Lock, got made into a digital version called, appropriately, Lock Digital, sometime last year, I think. We played it on the channel, it's really, really good. And I've also played Abdeck and Work separately to this as well. Now, the big thing here, though, is the previous ones were A5, which is about this size. So as you can see, Ladybus have slightly upped their game and complexity of this, because not only do we have a much bigger spiral-bound book in this, we also have these things. Oh, they're A6. Oh, then I will stand corrected. Let me correct that visual aid. They were that size. So, quite a big upgrade in size. But not only do we have the bigger book, we have these. I'm not sure what these are called yet. I'm sure we will find out as we play the game, because I have not really read any of this yet. But so what we've got here is effectively a small solo board game. But it's a solo board game where we are having to discover the rules as we go. Now, some of the previous books by Ladybus have been more cryptic than others, so I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. What I will say is every single thing I've played by Ladybus has, and I mean this in a really positive way, some absolute meta nonsense going on. And already in this, I've looked at the box, because it comes in, a classic sort of board game-esque box. I looked at the box, I can see Abdeck puzzles, and Lock puzzles, and Herd puzzles on the box. If you look at the front cover of this will no doubt be a solvable puzzle when we figure out what all of these different elements mean. I'm particularly got my eye on that butterfly, because if you know Lock, you know why I might have an eye on that butterfly. Let's put it that way. But what we're going to do today is we're basically just going to go through this in the first stream where I've ever done it with a physical camera, so hopefully you can hear me, hopefully you can see me okay. It's not going to be the best camera, but hopefully it should be clear enough. And because I think I'm going to be quite bad at this, I brought some moral support along in the form of a nanoblock Tails here, and this cute little guy down here who I've not named, who's a waving dog. So if you have any suggestions for the name of a lucky waving dog, obviously let me know. But let's, I guess, get going and see what this is all about. So if we start at the very front, deeply suspicious, definitely going to be a meta puzzle that I'm going to assume means I have to link loads of pages together. Interesting. I will say as well, if you know anything about the previous books, they all come with this kind of transparent inlay. That is in here as well. I'm not using it today because it was really, really reflective and made it hard to see. So I've got paper if we need to for now. You can see here, we've got this little indicator here. I'm assuming what this means, I guess we'll get there, is one of our little black characters starts here, and then we can slide following the arrow around this route. And in sort of, I guess, a combination of different puzzles, that will obviously spell hello if we go H-E-L-L-O. So I'm going to assume this is something to do with a starting point, this is something to do with an ending point, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we can go back to where we started with. Herd is a sliding, jumping and stacking puzzle adventure created by, and I'm going to get this wrong so I apologise, because I don't know how to pronounce the Z the accent above, Blage Urban Gracia, with a bunch of people who've helped out and I guess beta tested. Some very familiar names in there if you know anything about puzzle designers like Patrick Traynor, etc. Almost correctly. I'll take almost correctly. There's that sneaky butterfly again, and those birds definitely remind me of Locke. Also, I'm noticing the different letters each have a different shape. Well, not all have a different shape, but there are some different shapes there. And shapes were a big fundamental part of Abdec, which was sort of like, what if Tetris was a language? Okay. So, under monochrome sun, among bumps and stones, spawned from beyond, the grey family roams. A lost herd of creatures united on a trip. Some are called shepherds, some are called sheep. Whispers in their sleep, promising a home, one dedicated tile that they can call their own. So Herd is a puzzle board game for one player. That's me with your help. It comes with 6 pieces. 2 black shepherds, 2 white sheep, 1 double herd and 1 triple herd. You solve puzzles by sliding, jumping and stacking the pieces on grids printed in the book. A plastic sheet is also included. You can use it to take notes. You can download the PDF of the book. When you feel comfortable, continue to chapter 1 of 2. You can check the table of contents, solutions and the rules referenced at the end of the book. Always remember, the point of Herd is to witness beautiful movement. And welcome Port Ponky. I'm sure this is going to be excellent judging from previous pedigree. Although, again, deeply suspicious about little symbols appearing everywhere. The joy about this type of rule discovery game is you often then come back to things early on and realise there's a lot more context, a lot more interesting things to find and explore in them. And normally these intro puzzles are also solvable in some way as well. At least they certainly were in Locke. Okay, so chapter 1. I guess this is going to start with the basics. There we go, setup. Set up the puzzle by placing the correct pieces onto the grid as shown by placement markings in the corners of the tiles. Black circles take black pieces which are known as shepherds, and the goal is to end the puzzle with each end tile occupied by the piece depicted on it. So I guess this shape with the square shape with the eyes on is the end piece for the shepherds. So suspicious about these having symbols all around the place. Okay, so I guess the idea is we start there, and then we can move by sliding that way, then down there, then back across there, and then the puzzle is solved because we've covered the only end tile in the puzzle. So sliding. A shepherd slides in cardinal directions. It can't stop sliding or change direction until it hits the edge of the grid or another piece occupying the next tile. Solve your first puzzle. Yes, I should say Port Ponky, who is in the chat, made an excellent puzzle game called Only Sliding, which I am very bad at. And I'm not sure if we got around to playing on the channel. We should at some point. Okay, so puzzle number. Mark the white dot when you solve it. I'm not going to do that because I don't like marking these things directly. That's our symbol to start. That's an end point. And what it's saying here is an end tile doesn't stop the sliding by itself. So, what it's saying with this is that we can slide like this and we stop when we hit the outer boundary. We can slide like this and we stop when we hit the outer boundary. We could slide like this, but then the problem is if we slide down this way, we don't stop on the actual tile, we slide straight through it. So instead we need to slide this way, up here, here, and back down this way. So if you've played any old RPG in your Zeldas or your Tales of Arcadia sort of style, they will often have these puzzles where your character has ice, for example, to navigate, and they'll slide until they hit something, and it's a very classic style of puzzle. I'm sure, though, we are going to have complications pretty quickly. Okay, so I think we've officially solved our first puzzle number 1. Puzzle number 2. Okay, so this is saying that we can have puzzles with 2 shepherds. So, I guess the trick here is we probably have to use shepherds to block each other, because to come into this space we have to come from this space here, which we can't stop in any other way unless we have something blocking us here or here. And to block here is relatively easy, because we can slide this one down here, then across there, and then we can slide this one here and across there, and then this one can continue its journey down there, and that solves the second puzzle. This was a big element of only sliding as well, using other pieces to block movement and kind of manipulate pieces into places that seemed incredibly hard or impossible to get to. Okay, puzzle 3. We have our 2 spots there, and a little worm. I think it's a worm anyway there. Now, only one shepherd has to reach the end tile, so I guess that's important as well. In a lot of these games, every piece has to find a home location, but it seems like one of the mechanics in this is that you have to cover the end pieces with the correct piece, but that doesn't mean all of the pieces have to find their home. Now, the problem with this puzzle is if I move this one in any direction, it will basically get stuck. Because if I slide it here, it will get stuck. Here it will get stuck, here it will get stuck, or here it will get stuck. So effectively, if it ends up in any of those dead ends, it can then only ever move along the route horizontally or vertically it is already on. So I'm going to assume we have to do something to break it out of that. The most obvious way to break it out would be to do that, that, and then to go there. Yeah, and then we can slide this around this route back to its home position and slide that onto there. And now we've got one shepherd on the only end tile. That should be the solution to that puzzle. Okay. We have our 2 sliding design experts having a nice chat in the Twitch chat as well, which is good. Alright, jumping. A shepherd can also jump in cardinal directions, that is, sort of north, south, east, west. It always jumps over another piece, and for exactly 2 spaces, it can't jump over unoccupied tiles or over the edge of a grid. So it's sort of similar to kind of checkers or drafts rules, depending where you're from. So I think what it's saying is basically, if we have things like this, we can jump over, but there has to be something to jump over, and it can't, for example, jump over 2, like that. So, this puzzle will definitely have jumping mechanics in to teach us that. The only move we can do to start off with is to slide that one up anyway. Oh, okay, I see. And then if we slide this one here and up here, then this one can jump over there, this one can then jump over that one again, and make it there. So, yeah, that's sort of an interesting mechanic that will allow us to get to very unexpected board states, I suspect. Yeah, exactly, Port Ponky. It's very leapfroggy. Okay. So, puzzle number 5. So in this case, both of our shepherds have to get onto end places. So what's interesting about the jumping is what I said previously about dead ends. When you have 2 shepherds, it's no longer necessarily true. Because if we just have 1 shepherd on the board, when we start here, we can never escape this row, because we'll always slide to this position or this position, where the only option is to go left or right. But now we can leapfrog, right? So we can leapfrog over here, which now puts us in a position where we can move out of where we want to. My suspicion, however, is in this puzzle with these dead ends, is that we're probably going to have to use these dead ends. Yeah, because if we do something like this to go over to here, this to go over to here, we can then leapfrog and then we can do something like moving down here, moving down here, moving down here, and leapfrogging again. The trick is... Oh yeah, I think that's good, because actually what we can then do is we move this one down here, slide this one up here, here, and here, And now we can slide that one back there in order to complete that puzzle. What was invalid, Port Ponky? Oh, that was invalid up there. No, you're completely right. So yes, let's start that again. I still suspect that beginning was correct, where we have to do something like this. Yes, so what we have to do is similar to what I did before. We leapfrog over there and slide there, so we can then slide that one there, that one back down, and that one over there. It's always the danger of these being physical is it's very easy to accidentally incorrectly solve something. Yeah. Okay. Always the fear of a puzzle designer if someone finds a secret solution that is better than your real solution when they're playing it live. Okay. I'm also noticing that these pages all have a very implicit grid around the edge. That makes me suspicious for back at the beginning about having to line pages up. Anyway, we'll get there when we get there. So we have the two starting places here, and we have to get to these two positions, both of which, with default sliding rules, feel vaguely impossible, which is always fun. Mistakes are inherent to physical games. I think it's part of the herd experience to mess up at least 5 puzzles. That seems fair. Okay, so the difficulty with these ending states is this one has nothing to stop it from any direction, which means we will need one of our other shepherds to stop it in one of the positions. Potentially, most likely we need to get a shepherd there so we can slide on here and then up. But if we do that... Yeah, because if we have a shepherd there so we can slide in and up, that shepherd then can get to its home position by sliding there and back down again. So let's see if we can figure that out. But even getting there is quite fiddly. Let's just start playing and see. So we can slide down here. And we can jump over here. Which isn't a terrible start. Yeah, because then we can slide this one here. Slide this one up here. Okay, yeah, and then if we slide this one here, then down here, and then across, and then up, that gets us where we want to go, because this can jump, this can slide, and then slide down to there. The other thing with sliding puzzles is I'm always sure when I'm solving a sliding puzzle that there is a much faster, more efficient way of getting to the end state than I have found, but I'm not going to worry about that in this game. There is no move counter in physical games, thankfully. Okay. So we had this similar up to this previously. That was probably introducing the two shepherds. I guess now it's introducing the 2 sheep as well. So sheep. Single white pieces are known as sheep. Sheep can't be moved on their own. Interesting. But they can be jumped over or stacked upon. Stacking. If a shepherd jumps on another piece, it stacks on it. The other piece stays under the shepherd and slides with it. When the shepherd jumps the next time, it unstacks and leaves the other piece behind. A shepherd can also jump over stacks. Okay, so if we look at the diagram here, just do that on this board down here. What it seems to be saying is that we can jump over as normal, but then if we land on a sheep, we then very nicely stack on it. And then we can, for example, move again here. But then we have to... Oh, thank you for the follow. Oh yes, I've not got that set up in the camera thing. It's set up on my streaming one. The difficulty here then becomes we can't, you know, jump off the sheep by default. Because remember, for jumping, we always need something to jump over. So we'd need to slide that here, and then we could jump out here. So it seems to be what we have. I've got that set up wrong. We have 1 shepherd and 2 sheep. And I guess what this is teaching us as well, by this starting setup, our only move that we can do legitimately is to jump over this sheep. So it's teaching us that it's not just shepherds you can jump over, but sheep as well. And remember, our shepherd has to end up on this space, and it looks like our sheep have to end up on this space, but not all sheep have to end up on an end space, just like not all shepherds. So it would imply that we want to get the sheep here, then jump off over here onto our space, which I think is relatively simple. We jump over, land on the sheep, can then slide the sheep, jump off over there, and now we've got the end spaces covered. Although this feels like it has potential to get brain bending very fast. I'm pretty sure this is how real sheep herding works, yeah. Okay, end tiles. You must end the puzzle with each end tile occupied solely with the piece depicted on it. If the pieces are stacked on an end tile, the puzzle isn't solved. So, what that is trying to tell us is we can't end up with a state like this, because this sheep end tile also has a shepherd on it. So we need to, in this puzzle, end up with an end state like this, which is the exact inverse of the starting position. Reminder, a shepherd jumps over a piece or a stack, and yes, a shepherd can stack on a shepherd. Interesting. So we can actually end up like that, I guess. But I'm guessing by the design of the pieces, if you look, they don't have the kind of void underneath, that sheep can't jump on top of other things, because whenever we jump the shepherd, they jump off anyway. Right. So this is a symmetrical puzzle, so I can either jump that one onto there or that one onto there, and I don't think it matters. So we're going to do that as the first move, because that's the only first move we can do. Then we have 2 options. We can slide that one across to there, or we can jump that one off again, but that just gets us into a stalemate. So I guess we have to do that. Then we can slide this one to here. Jump that one onto there. This one is then allowed to jump over to here. Okay, I see. And then we can slide that one back onto here. Now the puzzle is not solved at this stage because we've got a stack on the end space of the sheep. But thanks to shepherds can stack on shepherds, this one can jump off here, over there, and land on there. And then I believe that is a solved puzzle. Although my worry is I'm going to get less and less certain about saying things like that as we go through. Oh, well, there we go. The puzzle designer says it's solved, so I'll take that as gospel. Okay, so if we go over here, we can start puzzle number 9. And Port Ponky, who is the unofficial official adjudicator, has said it's good too. So we'll take that twice. Okay, so in this puzzle, sheep needs to end up here, shepherd needs to end up here. Oh boy. So my first thought is to do this, where we jump onto here and slide down here. The problem with that is we then can't get the shepherd to jump anywhere, because we can no longer move this sheep because there's no shepherd on it, and we don't have anything blocking either of the 2 orthogonally adjacent cells to jump off of. So that can't be the solution. So effectively, if we want to solve this puzzle, we need to get a sheep here or here first, I think, in order to, once we've put the sheep there, to jump off. But we also need a way of getting the shepherd back up to here. So rather than jumping straight onto this sheep, we could use the sliding mechanics to come around here and then jump over here. Oh, maybe. Because then we can slide around like this, which then lets us jump the shepherd off up there. Which, yes, okay. Because then now the shepherd's free to slide around here again, jump over, grab that sheep, which can then slide back around. And that also solves our problem up here, because now we can jump off over here, slide up, then to the right, then down, and this position is now blocked. So we can then use that to line up to that end place as well. Okay, yeah, this is already starting to get to the stage where it's definitely tickling my brain parts. So, I'm just going to redo that just so I understand what I did in my own head there. So we basically had to do a bunch of repositioning. Yeah, so that's very similar to kind of one of those Towers of Hanoi style puzzles, where it's you have to do a certain move to kind of move one state of the puzzle along one step and then repeat it to move the puzzle along another step and then keep repeating it. So these mechanics with the jumping and the grabbing and moving sheep, I guess, really lend itself to that style of puzzle as well. So we need to look out for that as we go. Okay, puzzle 10. Hey, I said there was no step counters. That's cheating. It says optional challenge, solve this puzzle in 18 steps. Also, interestingly, the art is slowly starting to change. We've gone from very kind of like flat background colour, and it's starting to fade in, starting to get rain and stuff. So interesting to see if that keeps changing. We've got the little worm buddies coming around as well. I'm digging the art of the... They actually look quite like little lock creatures, although a bit more angry, having the little kind of leaf as a umbrella. Anyway, I refuse to give myself gold stars in real life. I've played enough not great mobile games that are like, wow, 3 stars! Please watch this ad to get a 4th star. Also, that's not the correct setup. That's their end positions. So that's the starting positions. So that's worth bearing in mind, that you can also have the same starting and ending position, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same sheep or shepherd there. I was just saying that since the Thinks Fun Smart Games were the initial inspiration, the optimal move count number was listed beside each puzzle for quite some time during the development. I think it's a good idea to remove it from games like this, because it's a problem I really had with some of the early Zachtronic games, is that it felt really bad for me when I'd solved a thing and spent loads of time trying to solve the thing, and then at the end it shows you the histogram that says, yeah, you solved it bad. It's like it really diminished the kind of endorphin rush of solving the puzzle for me. So I kind of think, I like that in more recent ones they've made that optional, and I think here it should just be a focus on did you solve it at all. I think that's kind of nicer. You don't want to, take away from people when they've managed to solve a complicated puzzle. Okay, so this is a very constrained board. So the 2 first options we can move are we can jump that over there, but that doesn't really do anything or help very much. So I suspect the better first move is to jump that one onto the sheep here. But I say that's the first better move, because then that can only slide there and it can't do anything. But I guess I can jump that one here. Then lets us swap these positions around. I'm not sure if that's helpful or not. No, I'm not sure if that's helpful or not. Although, I think it's going to be really difficult to land on this one. It's the only place we can land on it is from this space, so I'm not sure if we'll ever move that one or not. But yeah, we could then jump this one over here. Does that help? So if we jump that one over here, move that down, jump that one over there, but then we kind of get stuck. So I'm going to reset this. Paul Bungie says the whole objects on book is such a good implementation. Agreed. I mean, in a perfect world, having these like double layered so you had the recesses would be incredible, but also that would be unbelievably expensive to produce. So this is a really nice kind of compromise from physicality and kind of like the physical pieces. Because the whole point, you know, at least I buy board games, is because you want the physical things. And I will say these pieces, I want to say the designs are simple, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They are very carefully designed. They feel really nice. They feel really well made. They feel kind of like minimalist on purpose, as opposed to sometimes where you get kind of minimalist through a lack of kind of design. Yeah, elegant is a really good word. And also, obviously a lot of work's gone into making sure this is accessible. There doesn't seem to be any issues with colour blindness. We have kind of like very clear secondary indicators and shapes everywhere, which is really nice too. And obviously you're doing white versus black, which is about as the best as you can get for contrast, generally speaking as well. Anyway, that is me filling time trying to figure out what to do here. So, let's go from first principles. I can jump across there. I really don't think that helps progress us. Yeah, we could technically slide that down there and then jump on there and stack our shepherds, but then really the only thing we can do is reset that stack. So I don't think that's useful. So I really think that must be the first move. So I can't see any other moves. Okay, but then what we can do is we can jump that one over there, slide that one. Oh no, we can't then slide that one out of the way, can we? Because what would be nice to do is get one there that can then jump across. Because we could do that. Or maybe that is it, because then what we can do is we can jump that one to there and slide across here. This one can move up here. We can jump across there. Then allows us to jump this one back again onto here. Question being then, how helpful is that in the grand scheme of things? That does mean we can now do something like this. If we slide that one there, I guess we're allowed to jump that one off there, over that one onto the other sheep. I don't see why that wouldn't be allowed. Although I fear we then get a bit stuck. You know, we could then technically do something like this. Slide this one down, slide this one over here. not sure how helpful that is, but let's keep following. We can do that jump. We can do that jump. That one can slide up, that one can slide down. That one can jump into there. And if we slide that one up, that one can go there. That one can jump across. Do this. Then this. That can jump over there. Oh no, yeah, that's then possible, because that can then jump over there. That can slide into that slot. I can move that one back across there to then jump off that one. Do that. I think that's valid, but also I'm 100% sure I did that an incredibly long way round. But I will say Blige has a real habit of designing puzzles in tiny spaces that look incredibly simple, and then I spend about 4 hours on. Which is, you know, generally a really decent way to design a puzzle. It's just sometimes you look at these puzzles and go, oh, it can't be that difficult, and then you're like, no, it was. Okay, so we are going to put our pieces over here. I am going to ignore that step counting challenge, especially after how puzzle 10 went. Let's see if we can solve this puzzle in a nice rainy environment. Okay, just to check. Yeah, so we have to get 1 sheep in position, 2 shepherds in position. As we saw from that last puzzle, it does not have to be the same shepherd as starts on the space. So, being a puzzle designer myself, my first thought is, well, look, the first obvious move is to do that. However, the fact there is a less obvious move always makes me deeply suspicious, because we could do this, and then this, and then this. How helpful that is, I'm not entirely sure. So admittedly, we could then do some sort of like rearranging. But I'm not really sure that gets us where we want to go. Because yeah, we could jump over there, we could jump back over here, but then we sort of get into a not great situation. So let's try taking the more obvious first move and see if that goes somewhere a bit more where we want to go. So the fundamental thing that we want to do is we want to get one onto here potentially, so we can slide it across here. So we could do something like 1. Oh, you see, you got me counting now. We could do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then the difficulty is, how do we then get this shepherd off? No, I don't like how that phrased. The difficulty is, how do we get this shepherd to jump off the sheep? Not better, but we're going to go with it. Because we need something here to then jump away from. And I don't think it's then possible for us to get anything in that space, because this will just slide backwards and forwards here without stopping. We can't move this sheep, we can't move that shepherd in a useful way. It does make me want to reevaluate the less obvious solution. Yeah, then we get to this situation. Just jumping in that direction doesn't help us really. I mean, we could sort of jump around like this. I guess we need to remember that we can stack the shepherds as much as that helps us. Interesting. I don't think there was a rule against what I'm thinking. Oh, it's definitely been more than... Yes, interesting. I wonder if it's possible to get into a situation where we are like that, where we have two shepherds on top of the same sheep. As you made this a right minefield to describe. So I don't think that's invalid in any way. It's very carefully, repeatedly talked about stacks. And, you know, you've still got a shepherd on top, so they should still be able to move. Interesting. Not sure if that's what we need to do here. Just keep ending up back in this situation that's not helpful. Okay, let's try the more obvious first move, which would be to jump from here up to here. This is the least that will be done to sheep in this game. Oh, that's... What a deeply worrying statement to see in my chat. Okay, so I could do something like this where you jump on like this, but again, it's not super helpful in this situation, I don't think. So jump across like that, jump back over here. Oh, but at this state, we could do this. We could do this, because that then lets us jump across there. Slide in that direction. The difficulty is then we have to get both shepherds off. So if we slide up and across here, that will let that one jump off. If we slide that one up here, that one to here, this one down here, that can jump that direction, and they can go back like that. Okay. I mean, that's the puzzle solved. I do not think that's the optional challenge, because I definitely wasn't counting. But, ooh, that's... yeah, sneaky. Sneaky, sneaky. This is going to get very brain-bending very quickly. Alright. Oh yeah, we've got into a full-on rainstorm. I knew the birds would come back to haunt me. The fact that this is just a bird with a question mark and a bunch of worms or caterpillars having a rain dance. Deeply worrying. Yes. Okay. This is something to come back to, I suspect. Now, this is an advanced puzzle. Feel free to skip it. Debating. Yeah, I think we're going to skip the advanced puzzle for now, because I want to see more mechanics. So we're going to come back to page 18 and 19. Well, I suspect we're not going to get back to 19 in time. In this stream, but I'm sure that will be something to do with the meta. Okay, the next mechanic. Bumps. Bumps act as any other piece. They can be jumped over or stacked upon, but they can't be moved, so a shepherd can't slide. with a bump stacked under it. Oh, I see. So I guess what it's saying here is, here, this can't move this direction because there's a bump in the way, but it can jump onto that bump. But then the problem is it can't move because it's like having a sheep under it that is completely immobile. Page 17 had the 18-step challenge. I am irked. Now I am too. Yeah. That seems fair. Bumps really are just sheep glued to the ground, it's true. And then we also have walls. Walls are impassable. A shepherd can't slide through a wall or jump over it. Which, knowing what I know about Locke, makes me think that there will be gaps that you can jump over, but walls don't let you. Okay, anyway. In this case we have no sheep, so we just have to get our 2 shepherds here and here. So, in this case I guess we can jump over this bump, onto this bump. Then the problem is, this one cannot move away, because remember it always has to jump off something when it's stacked. So this will have to go down here, so we can then jump over onto this bump, which then means we'll have to boop, 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 for this to jump over to this bump. And then we can go boop, boop, boop to jump this over here into its home position. This is now free to move because it's no longer on a bump, but I don't think we need to move it again, because I think we can slide this down here, jump onto that one, and there's already a bump here, which we can then jump over onto there. Okay. So we do the next puzzle. We will have 1 shepherd, 1 sheep, and the sheep doesn't have to get anywhere. The shepherd has to get down here. I'm going to assume the only reason we have this sheep is because we will have to move it into somewhere that will allow us to do what we want. Because fundamentally the main problem with this puzzle is we can jump onto there, which is fine. We can jump onto there, but then we cannot jump off onto our end space. So to jump off here, we have to be on this space. To get to that space, we need to probably jump onto that bump there. So if we have the sheep here, we can jump from here onto this bump. So if the sheep is here, we can go bump, 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 or bump, bump, bump. So if we jump onto here, we can then change direction and jump up to here. And then we could jump off onto this space here. Yes, so then if we slide down here, we can then jump over that bump onto that bump, then jump up over here, land on the sheep, move the sheep around to where we want it, jump off there onto that bump, jump over that bump over here, come back around, jump over the sheep onto that bump, and then we can do bump, bump, bump to the end, like that. Oh, the spatial awareness on this is going to come back to haunt me, I suspect. Yeah, remember, to get off a bump, a shepherd must jump over another piece, bump, or stack. That feels like there was some playtesting where people had forgotten by that stage. Also, it stopped raining. It wasn't raining for very long. But now, all the ground around it's got a bit bumpy. Blood says yes, they'd forgotten by this point. That's normally whenever you see a reminder in a game, it's because someone's tested it and someone's forgotten an important point by that point and broken something. Okay, so for this we have 2 endpoints. We have a shepherd endpoint, a sheep endpoint. So only one of each of these 2 has to find a home. Okay. So we can't jump onto this sheep because we'd have to jump over that bump onto this bump, and then we can't go directly onto there. So it feels more likely that we'll probably have to do something like this first. Because if we can land on this bump, then we can jump on and grab that sheep. So we could do something like this, for example, where you slide up and around there, slide this one up and around there, and now, because we've used this one to block this space, that can jump off, jump over there, and we can then come back around the loop, jump onto that bump, which allows us to jump onto the sheep here, and then we can move that onto here. Now remember, this is not valid. This shepherd has to jump off before this space is considered complete with a sheep. But that's not too difficult, because we can now just move that one to there. That will allow us to jump over there. And then I don't think it matters if stuff is stacked that is not on the end pieces. So we can just go boop, 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 boop. You know, and if we want to be picky and we say we want everything unstacked, then we can always just use that bump to jump off over there. But I don't think anything we've seen so far makes that invalid. Oh, legit? Does that mean it's not the way you'd solve it? Okay, there's no sheep starting points on this puzzle. Okay. Ooh, this one looks complicated with the bumps. So we have to get both shepherds onto a space. It's different from my official solve. Well, that's fair enough. I think with sliding puzzle games, it's very difficult to make unique solutions, right? You want people to use the mechanic that you're interested in, but there'll always be different ways to slide their way there. Okay. So I guess the reason we have this reminder here is because, yeah, we have spaces like this space here, where if a shepherd is on this space, by default it can't get off the bump because it needs to jump over something. Also, we can't jump from this bump to this bump, for example, unless there's something there in the middle. What we could do in that case, though, however, is we could jump over here to fill that space, jump over this bump onto that bump, jump over this shepherd onto that bump. I'm not saying this is the right thing to do, by the way, in any way, but it's allowed to be done. Then we could jump this over here. But that then doesn't really get us anywhere super useful, because if we then jump down here, we just end up basically where we were at the start. Okay, so if we want to get a shepherd onto here, which I think is going to be the more difficult position to get a shepherd, we basically need to get a shepherd onto here. The two places we get a shepherd onto this space are here or here. So if we can get a shepherd up into this space, this like void up here, then we can get a shepherd down here. And if we can get a shepherd up to here, we can obviously get a shepherd into there. So the question is, how do we get up here, I suppose? One way to do that is to get a shepherd into this space here. I don't think it's too difficult. So from here we can jump here, slide up here, ooh, jump over to here. But that's when this space becomes tricky. Because we can jump, we'd have to jump our other shepherd into there. Then we can jump over to here, and we can jump over to here, and over to here. The difficulty then is, I think, getting them both up here. Because if we just move this shepherd over here, we can't get that shepherd into that gap because we need one here. So instead, I think what we need to do is we need to do... Ooh, we need to jump this one over here. Jump this one, move it up here, and then that can jump onto that space, which then lets us, if we slide this one over here, jump this one over, and then over, and then no, that's not right. We don't want to jump that one over there. We want to slide that one up there, move that one here, and then they can go bump, bump, home. You just saw the second exit at the bottom. What, this one down here? That's definitely what makes that puzzle a bit more fiddly, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Clever. A lot about sliding puzzles, and I will admit, as I say, I'm not very good at them. I've realised is not being too greedy. You get one near the goal and you desperately like, oh, I've got to move it there. But the problem with a lot of sliding puzzles is once you get a piece into a really specific position, it can be really hard to get it back there, so you often have to leave it there, do a bunch of other stuff before you then, you know, move that one where it needs to go. That was thanks to Port Ponky's game, only sliding, that well, I'm going to say learnt that, but I'm still not very good at it, so. The bumps are definitely getting bumpier as we go. Oh, there we go, there's confirmation. There can be more than 2 pieces in a stack. Interesting. The bumps are getting faces, but to be fair, the bumps inside the level have always had faces. They've just been sleepy faces. So the bumps are waking up. Okay, 2 shepherds. 1 sheep. So, there is no sheep ending point in this. There are 2 shepherd ending points, and remember, walls are important. Walls mean that we can't do this. We're not allowed to jump from this space to this space, as far as I understand. Although what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look up walls, because they've not been in very much. So I didn't really internalise the wall rule. I think we're at the beginning of bumps, maybe. Yeah, walls are impossible. A shepherd can't slide through a wall or jump over it. Yeah. Exactly, they are infinitely high in the metrics of this game. So basically, we're not allowed to jump over there when there's a wall. So what that means in this puzzle is that everything has to come in kind of this direction. So what I think that really means is we probably... The difficulty is, if we get one on here, we then need one here to jump off. So I suspect what we need to do is we probably need to do the thing where a shepherd goes here, then here, then here, then jumps over to get this one away. The difficulty being, of course, for each of here, we need something there to jump over, then here we need something there to jump over. Which is probably the trick of this, is that we have to get the one to this position first, because this one is a lot easier to jump once we've got one into this position. So, let's try and figure that out from the start of the puzzle. Okay. The other thing, I guess, is we need to get this sheep out of the way in order to jump from there to there. To do that, the only way we can jump on that sheep from the initial board state is to jump away from here. So I'm pretty certain that we need to do this kind of jumping across first. Yeah, okay. So if we jump this way, we take this piece and jump over that bump. We can then slide down there, jump from here over to here. So from this space to this space. Then if we slide this piece around like this, we can jump from here onto that sheep. So that then gives us a bunch more flexibility. Then if we move this one all the way around here, suspicious of this space, but we'll go with it. But I think I've just seen why we need that space. But anyway, we can now slide this one away. Now we're herding the sheep. No, I agree, yeah. That wasn't a slide. I'm going to start this again from the beginning in a second. I'm just vibing it out at the moment. Because, yeah, once we get one there, we can do some stuff around there. Okay. So, starting again from scratch. Remember, we need to get one on this space here. So we can jump over there, slide there, jump over there, use this piece to then jump onto that sheep, and then we can slide this one down here. Then we can use this to slide around like this. This is where then we need to think. So yeah, if we don't actually slide that down just then, if we slide this one across and then slide this one down, then slide this one back here, we can jump onto there. The difficulty then becomes we need to get something into that space. Yeah, we can jump that onto there, but then sort of it's a bit like, what do we do at this point? Well, I guess we could move that up there, move that along here, jump off, move along here. That doesn't quite get us what we want. I guess that's what we want at all, in fact. Okay. Let's reset. So yeah, I think it's really important that we have to get the sheep early, because I think that's going to be used as something that we use to jump about. It's going to be used as like the mobile bump that a sheep is in the rule set so far. So yeah, this is basically the same. We can do that, jump there, move that one up there, jump there, slide that back, jump up onto there. I guess we could do something like sliding that, sliding that, sliding that, sliding that, sliding that, and jumping that one over there. And then this could jump over there, sliding this way. I think this doesn't get us where we want to go, because we can jump over there, slide that direction, but then we'd have to jump into this space, which then, yeah. Thank you. The music is coming from a little side project I have called Tinkerer, which is based off the idea of a bit of MIDI controller hardware called the Noodler, where it's sort of generates music by playing semi-randomized chords in different scales and stuff. So you can set up different patches and it does bass notes, does some simple... You can set up a simple beat and set up some simple sort of arpeggiators. I've just got it all running very, very slowly. But it will sort of change between different types of chords, like triads and sixths and sevenths and different types of triads and things in a way that I don't fully understand. I kind of understand the maths, but not it musically. So yeah, basically it's just running in the background in a little Unity project. So it's very traditional, kind of procedurally generated style, but you lock everything into the same scales and stuff like that so it can avoid discordancies. Yeah. Wanted something that wouldn't be, copyright struck. Well, hopefully anyway. If it is, I will find that quite funny. Anyway. Appreciated. I thought it was a nice, chill background for this. Okay. There is clearly a positioning trick here that I'm missing. So that opening stuff seems alright. Oh, what if I jump across there, go there, and then leave the sheep there? That feels like a useful place to leave the sheep, because that can jump. Then we can do the slide, slide, slide. The slight difficulty is, again, we have a bit of a problem here. But we can now at least jump that one to there, and that one to there. Question is it then possible for us to get a piece there? So we could, move there, jump over the sheep. But that is then... Does that then get us stuck? Potentially. Because we can't easily get anything stopping here where we want it. Alright. Well, congratulations for getting 18. And we'll get there eventually, all being well. Yeah, it feels like we maybe need to get these all in position before we send this one on its little trip. Because even if we got this here, it would still be really difficult for us to get a piece there. Okay. So let's do the jump. Wait, what am I doing? I've now lost track of what I was doing. Yeah, so we want to do something like this. I think this is the same way I've done it previously, but I don't think it matters. Jump over like that. Then we want to move this out the way, move this down, get this in this position. Interesting. It isn't where we wanted it from before. Yes, so we'd need to jump that across there, jump that over there, move that up there. Okay, so that's fine. The difficulty is, how do we get one there? You must have to use both of the pieces somehow. I mean, we can... a slightly different way about getting this piece out of the way, just to see if that helps. So the difficulty then becomes, how do we then get it to jump onto here if we have a piece up here as well? That would need to slide, jump. Let's not jump that one. So that will then get us a piece there. Then yeah, how do we get onto where we want to get to? So we could jump. But yeah, then we just end up sort of stuck. We can jump that one to there without losing our position. And even if we want, jump that one there if we want, and we can still get back to where we need it. It's kind of you to say that you think I'm getting there. I don't feel that yet, but I know often with puzzles it's a state of you can be incredibly close to being there and not see it until suddenly you see it. Pro tip, spend hundreds of hours designing sliding puzzles. Did that help, or are you actually seeing this solution? Or are you just saying that you can see it? I'm not seeing where to go from here. So we could do something like we could jump that here, but again, that doesn't really change much. Because yeah, we can jump over here, and come across here, we can jump over here, and we can jump back, but it's not really changing anything. Go like here. Slide that on there, that gets us to be able to jump there, but that's not what we really want. We could slide that one down there, I guess. Jump that one over there, and then down there. Which gets us back to the kind of similar problem that we had before, that we can now get that one into there. How do we get one into one of these free spaces that we need to get it into? Yeah, okay. I think I am officially stumped here. Jump over here. But yeah, then we're basically on the wrong... If you think of this as being like a bit like a chess grid, black and white cells, we're on the wrong coloured spaces then to get where we want to go. Polarity arguments. Well, yeah. When you've got jumping, I guess it comes back down to... No, you were very allowed to suggest. I think I might need a small nudge in the direction of the solve at this stage. To, yeah, progress on stream at least. The only thing I can think of is that the sheep needs to be in this position instead. I wonder if that makes it easier. So yeah, feel free to give a little nudge. I need to change the position of the sheep, yes, okay. Alright, well, let's reset then and try that. Okay, so we go over here, slide these along, jumpy, jumpy, slidey, 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 slidey. Okay, so we're going to assume the sheep has to be there then. We can jump away. I'm worried about getting into exactly the seam. And also take notice how more flexible shepherds are in comparison to sheep. Okay. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Okay. I think I maybe have just seen something. So, I'm going to try this before I'm all like, oh, maybe I've got something. Okay, so if we jump over there, move that there, jump over there, move this back, jump on the sheep. It was a potential ooh of realization. What I was thinking is if I now move this way here and I move this and put the sheep here, then it's much easier for me to stop a shepherd in either of the two positions where I want a shepherd to be, and I can move them between the two jumps, is my thinking. So, that then means if I jump over here, doop doop, doop doop, right, and now I jump onto there, it's really easy for me to get this shepherd into that position, for example. Now that can jump over there. This can then come around here, jump over here, slide over here, jump over here, slide there, and now it's in the right position to make that one happen. And then boop boop. Then we can jump these over to the end. As I say, one of those things, when you see it, it's really obvious, but it takes a while to see it. Yep. Yeah. That's, yeah. Yeah, that was on me. That is very obvious when I saw it. A very nice puzzle, indeed. Okay. Let's move on to 18, because I'm curious to see if we can get another mechanic in before we wrap up for today. Now, bumps are indeed waking up, and there is a hint here that says there can be more than 2 pieces in a stack, which I'm going to assume is a very vital hint for how to solve this puzzle. And again, if we clear the board quickly, there is only one space that we need to have anything in, and that we need a sheep there. The interesting part is that, remember, we can't have anything on top of the sheep when we get there. And I'm also noticing it's very peculiar that there are walls on these sides of the sheep, let's say sheep paddock, right? Because by the default rules of this game, nothing can come in through these sides anyway, so why does there need to be walls? Which makes me think they are there for something we do not understand yet, or some form of meta puzzle coming in later. This is just aesthetics, says the designer, who I don't trust when it comes to meta puzzles. Okay. So, got a bunch of bumps in the middle. If the challenge is, how do we get anything on this sheep, I guess, is the main challenge here. Because if we're, say, here, we can jump onto the sheep, right? Which is fine. The difficulty is we can't get onto that space easily. So we need to come from here, which isn't in the map, here, which isn't in the map, here, which isn't in the map. Where we can jump onto is here, but that doesn't let us get to the sheep in any meaningful way. I guess it's also worth pointing out with the walls, that means the sheep cannot, as far as I understand it, exist in this bottom part of the map, because we can't slide the sheep through this wall, and the sheep can't jump, and they can't go through the bumps. Okay, so basically the first 2 moves we can do are we can slide down here, or we can jump this in this direction. We can't jump it in this direction because of this wall here. This wall here. So, just get the horns upgraded for the sheep, turning it into a ram so you can smash down the walls. Yeah, that feels like something that is always potentially possible in this design space. Okay, let's just say that my thinking is that we're going to have to do something like this. Just to move that a little bit. We can then, jump this, jump this. Then we can look cluelessly at the board for a few minutes. Metroid Herdnia. Ooh, that is a stretch of a genre name. Those of you who don't know, Metroidvania is a slightly contentious term for games like Taji that we played on the channel, where you can complete the game straight away as long as you know the rules, and things are locked not by abilities like double jump or getting the morph ball upgrade, but by understanding the environment. I actually really like the term. It's much better than any other term I've heard for it, but some people are very not fond of it. Okay. So. I guess what I'm struggling with is figuring out the state that I need to get in to solve this. So, I think fundamentally at some point we need to get... Because in this initial setup, there's no way for the sheep to change order. They can't swap around because you need like a passing spot. So like down here, for example, if we have our 2 shepherds down here, we can change their positions by, doing this, like this and this down here. And now the one that was on the right is on the left. Up here, because there's not that passing point, I don't see any way to do it even with the shepherds. So if that's true, that means this sheep here has to be the one who slides into here. And then we have to have potentially a shepherd here so the shepherd can jump off to make sure the sheep is alone in the paddock. Or potentially the other sheep has to be here. Yeah. But the bit I'm sort of struggling a little bit with is figuring out how we get anywhere near that state. Well, yes, the herds later on, which I assume will come later on, will be different and scare me. Because I'm scared there might be rotational mechanics, especially for this one. Anyway, let's say we can jump onto that sheep, but I don't know how useful it is. So we can do that, and we can definitely move it. And it gets us to here, which is not necessarily very easy to get to by default. But yeah. Not sure, basically. Ah, there is another way. Oh, there is another way. So if they're... Oh, although I say that, I was about to say, if the sheep are like this, then we can, you know, jump from this sheep to this sheep and then move it. But the problem is, to get to the sheep like that, we still have the fundamental issue that we need to get a shepherd onto this sheep to move it. As I say, there's this hint that we can stack shepherds. So clearly that is important here. In fact, more specifically, it says there could be more than 2 pieces in a stack. Which I guess means we could do something like having 2 of them, like all 3 of them like this. It doesn't solve my fundamental bit that I don't know how to do about how to get something to move this sheep initially. Oh, okay. There is another way to get on that sheep. Is if we have 2 shepherds up here. That seems potentially possible. That does seem potential. Always worrying when the designer goes, in your chat. Who knows if that's a good or a bad . Okay, so let's do what we did before. We can move that there, we can move that there, we can move that there, and we can move that down here. So that then gets us potentially somewhere. I guess part of the difficulty is, how do we get a shepherd back up here? So the only way a shepherd can actually get into this top area is, I think, going through here. Or off here into that one, but we know it's hard to get a shepherd here. Jump that one there. Jump it back. Doesn't really help us. Jump that up there. Something like move that up there, jump that over there, but does that really help? Maybe. Maybe? Yes, because now that can... No, they can't do that from there. But maybe. Okay, have an idea, have an idea, have an idea. Okay, so we do what we did before. We jump over there onto this sheep, move down here, then we move that over to here, slide this around and up here, and jump it over here. That can then jump to here, which then allows this one to jump across it over to here. This one could then jump back up to here. That allows this one to slide up to here, which then means that one can jump over to there, that can jump onto there and onto there. Then means we can move that up there, jump that one, then slide it, jump that one, then we can jump that one over, move this one, jump that one over, move this one, jump that off, and I think we are there. Whoa, that was sneaky. Never, ever, ever trust a puzzle designer that leaves a space like this. It is always, almost always there for a good reason. Alright. So, as before, this is an advanced puzzle. We're going to skip those for today to see another mechanic. There is also a very sneaky bird, this time about a question mark with ellipses. This entire page looks like it is a puzzle. So I guess maybe at the end of every section there is something to line up. I'm sure these patterns of symbols maybe are there to help you line up another puzzle on top of them or align them or something. Anyway, let's move on to the next mechanic. Herds. We have got to the namesake of the game, only an hour and 40 minutes in. So, sheep can also be part of a herd. A herd is a piece of 2 or 3 connected sheep. A shepherd can jump over or stack upon each sheep in a herd separately. If a shepherd stacks upon a herd, the shape of this herd dictates how they can slide together. A herd can't be rotated during solving. I am deeply suspicious of that, but let's say for now we know that a herd cannot be rotated during solving. Which the symbols that we saw all the way back early on. Was it on the front cover actually? Yeah. So look, these are telling us where we can put herds on the front cover to potentially solve this puzzle. We still haven't encountered these holes with pegs in yet though. We don't have all the rules we need to solve the front cover. Okay, so I'm going to assume that yes, we put them inside these outlines, and then we have a shepherd there. Okay. So, the only move we can make from the start of this is to jump that shepherd onto this triple herd, because this wall here means it can't jump in this direction or slide in this direction. So we jump over this double herd onto that herd. Now, and we just, according to this diagram, just need one shepherd on a herd. That then means we can do something like slide this here, slide this up here, because I'm assuming, and this is very only sliding, the shape of the herd will really dictate where and how it can slide. But I think, because the problem is if we are on this herd and we go here, there's no way we can then jump off this herd because we need to jump over something else. So I think we need to move that up there so we can then jump off that herd. Then what we can do is we can slide around like this, jump back onto the herd, slide it down again so we can jump off again. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I have a strong suspicion we need to get this herd to slide across into this space here in order to give us something to jump off. Admittedly, I might also just be overcomplicating things. That is always a possibility. But now I'm on this position, I can jump over here. But I don't think that really helps us because we can't get on here at all. Okay, I've lost track, so let's start again. So we know the first move has to be something like this. And then we can slide potentially there, and then we still can't get off this herd, which means we need to move it again. So I think the only thing we can do is move it up there. We'll revisit that later when I can't solve it, to see if that is definitely true. Now, I made a mistake. I said I could only jump here. I can also, if I wanted to, jump over here. And that means that I can slide this one down. Yes, interesting, because that then means when I slide that one down, I can now jump back over here. I can then slide this one back down. That means I can jump off, go to the end point. Oh dear, this is going to get complicated. Alright, okay. So, next puzzle. Doesn't look like we've got the triple herd. Then we can put that here. So a herd can cover an end tile to solve the puzzle, but only if no sheep in the herd is stacked upon. So what it's saying is this counts as solved because one of the sheep is on the sheep tile, but we can't have a shepherd either there or there. The other hint is sometimes you'll have an option of either sliding with or jumping off a herd in the same direction. So I think that what that's saying is basically one of our first moves is most likely to be this. That then means we can either slide or jump off in that direction. The trick here though is if we do the obvious thing, if we slide down and then slide across, this puzzle is not solved because we still have a shepherd on the herd and there is now no way for that shepherd to jump off the herd. So basically, I think what we need to do is we need to get the shepherd on the bottom position. So if we need to get it on here, because if we slide across here, well, it's in this position, we can then jump off in a way that solves the puzzle. So there's no way to get onto that position until we move this one down some. So I think we have to start with something like this. We could slide it down, but then we can't get off. We can slide it across, we still can't get off. We can slide it up, we can get off, but there's now no way to get onto this piece. But if we do one more slide to here, we can then go really around the houses to solve this, because we can jump off over here, slide, slide, jump, slide, slide, jump, slide, slide, jump. Yes. Okay. This is very clever indeed. What's an angry bump? Or a baffled bump? We've also got some food and... I think we're in a beach environment this time. Looks like we may be getting seashells coming in and... Nope, no skipping ahead. I must earn seeing the pretty art. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all the pieces. We have one paddock to get in, one shepherd home to get in. The thing that we can introduce immediately is this cannot be the bit that will cover the paddock, because there's no way that can get in this orientation. So we need to get this sheep into there. Also, this wall, I'm saying now, is going to annoy us. There's a reason that wall there is there, and it's because it's stopping us from doing an easier solution, I'm almost certain. Okay, The other thing is this starting position here is in a position that we can't easily get back to. So we maybe want to be careful about understanding that. Might be relevant, might not be relevant. Okay. So to slide the sheep into here, it needs a shepherd on, it needs to be on this row. Or I guess technically it can be down here. So for example, we could end up with this over here, then we can slide the sheep in. Although, yeah, we'll have to figure out exactly what to do there. One way or another, I think we need to get on to some sheep and see where we go. So there's a couple of ways we can get on to a sheep. We can do this, jump on, and then something like that. Although then we're going to run into the problem, how do we then remove the shepherd from that sheep? Because we need to get something into this space here, which we don't have anything there yet. And the only way we can get onto this herd is by having something in that space. So I don't think it's going to be that immediately. The other option is we can do this, 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 jump onto this triple herd down here. That feels more likely. So, sliding that up, we are then able to jump this over here, jump this over here, slide this over here, jump onto here, slide this down and jump back onto here. Because then we can slide this herd over here, which allows us to slide this sheep down, slide back across, slide back down, slide this across, slide this herd back up, then we can jump off using that herd, and then we can easily get to the end state. Okay, very sneaky indeed. And you know, let's just put that right down there because it looks a bit cleaner. Okay. Herds are interesting. I can see why you named it after the herd mechanic in particular. Okay, so in this space, in puzzle 23, we have two shepherd spaces down here. Again, problematic walls. We have a 2 herd and 2 shepherds up here. The sheep don't have to end up anywhere in particular. And we've got the 2 bumps down here, which means nothing can slide in this area. So effectively at some point we're going to have to like jump, jump, slide, and jump, jump into there as well. All the figurines are also collectively known as Herd. I see you followed the Nintendo thing where they are all Yoshis, but there is also a Yoshi. Okay. So how do we get onto this herd? Well, we'll need to use one of the shepherds, something like this, in order to jump on it. The complication is going to be... So, okay, the complication is going to be, to get the first on this herd is not that difficult, right? Because we can slide, 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 jump like that. The difficulty here is if we now just immediately jump off and put this down here where we want it, there's now no longer any way for the other shepherd to get onto this herd. So, we clearly can't do that. So we do this, put it up there. I suspect that we're going to have to do something like sliding this up here. So we can then slide this into here. Well, I'm not sure that actually helps us long term. Because yeah, we can then jump both of the shepherds onto the herd. Which I assume is fine. There's been no rules telling us that shouldn't be fine. But then when we slide that back over here, we then have the same problem that this can't jump off to a useful space over here. Although if we do that, obviously what we can then do is something like this, where we slide that up here, slide that down here, or jump that down here. Although again, how useful that is somewhat debatable. Although, no, that might be it exactly. Because from here, we can slide this along here and round here. That allows this one to jump off. It doesn't seem super important until you realise that you can then do this. Then move this here. Jump this one over to here. Slide this back over to here. So lets it jump onto here. This then slides along like this. This can, we'll use the shepherd stacking, why not? Jump onto there, slide down, jump over there. Yeah, okay. It's very clever with the jumping mechanics how these work, because you do a lot of manipulation of being able to, come at the sheep from the correct angle. I'm going with it now. There's no way to talk about this that doesn't get me demonetized. Okay. Oh. Is these sort of Lockite creatures again? Okay. In this one, we have the triple herd. We have 2 shepherds. It is true, the shepherd's obsession with jumping over things is really making their lives very complicated. In my headcanon, it's like them all being confused by Morris dancing, and their entire lives being, built around having to jump and dance around sheep with fancy ribbons. Okay, yeah, I knew this would be coming. I knew this stuff would be coming, where you'd have to, manipulate the shapes to cover more spaces, because that is very Abdeck if you've played that book. Although that goes places. Okay. Anyway, we have 2 spaces to get shepherds here. And we have the sort of similar idea from previously that to get people into either of these spaces, they basically need to jump onto this bump, and then they can jump into the space. Jump onto this bump and jump into that space. Again, the complication being that while that's easy to do for one of them, it's not so easy to do for both of them. However, I notice with interest the layout of this means that while it would be really nice to be able to get this space here, because if we get it there, then we can go like jumpy, jumpy, jumpy. There's no way for that to, legally slide up into there and around to there. You just can't do that. So that would make me think that maybe, there's basically only 2 positions this can exist in this board state. It can exist here, or it can exist here. So that makes me think that up here is when we need potentially both of them. Now, having said that, we can use this to help with this location up here. But I think we have to do this one first. I think we have to get one of the shepherds into this position first. So if we slide this here, which we can't do immediately, brain, but if we do slide this here, what we can do is if we jump one down here, and then we can slide this, and that can jump back up to here, and then do what we want. So I think the first goal is to get into a position where we can move this one space across, which is relatively easy, because we can slide this down, this can then jump onto there, this can then slide The slight difficulty might then be how do we solve this, getting this shepherd off of here? Although I guess once we've jumped that one, like that, we're allowed to slide this one back. Then we'll let this one jump off again. I'm not sure that hugely helps, because that's just gotten us back to exactly where we would have been one move away from the start. Okay, so let's try that again. We'll do these slides. We'll grab that one over there, and we'll use that to slide over here. The other option, of course, is we can do something like this can jump over here, slide up here, which then allows us to jump that one off onto there. So that means this one can jump over into here, slide this whole unit back. Then means if we wanted to, I guess we could have the shepherd stacking, which then means we can slide this all back this way. I think that might be what we want, because then we can jump off. This can then come round like over here. I mean, I've just gone a really long way round to get to exactly the same place. No, because it was important to have them on this part of the herd. So anyway, this can go around here, slide, jump. Shepherd can go there, shepherd can go there. Whoop. Shepherd can go there. Shepherd can jump onto that space where we need them to be. And then we can jump that one to the finish, because once it's there, I don't think there's anything else we can do with them. But this then means we can slide this one, back jump, jump over here, jump up here, jump back across to this position, slide this back, and take that one to its end position as well. Yeah, so it's so important which space you are on the herds as well for what you can do with them. Interesting. Okay. So, we have 25 here. 25 we have one there. We have a single sheep. We haven't had a single sheep for a little bit. And one shepherd up here. So things we can deduce before we start solving this puzzle. There's only one way that this puzzle can be completed. Because this can't rotate, as far as we know in the rules. We have to have the sheep configured like this. Now, the advantage of having the sheep configured like this is if we get this piece in, this herd in first, and we drive the other sheep into that gap, we've solved it, right? Because it's easy for us to jump the shepherd off, and it's still valid. The complication, of course, I suspect will be we need to probably have our shepherd on this well, actually, yeah, that is going to be the complication, because even if we have the shepherd here, we can't jump off onto the sheep because there's a space. And as we learned from Locke, adjacency is really important, and what is in between the spaces is really important. So we might actually want to do something like get the sheep into this position first, because then if we, on this part of the herd, which should be relatively easy to get onto, we can then jump off onto the sheep, steer the sheep round. Okay. Okay, so with the initial board state, though, I don't think there's any way to get to that sheep immediately. I think we have to move this first. And there's only one's position. If we want to get to this space, we'd have to somehow get here and come down, which we can't do. But what we can do is we can do doot, 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 and jump on like that. That's doable. That is a valid way to get onto here. And then we could slide up and we could slide along like that. Does that help us? Not sure. Maybe. I'm just going to keep working with this because it does allow us to jump into this space and jump into here, and then we can slide along and around up here and jump into a different position to the position we were in before on that herd, which gives us potentially more possibilities of how to exit. So again, we can now slide, and then we could maybe slide here. Is that helpful? I don't think so, because it doesn't really give us our necessarily our core mission, or like our core thing that we're trying to solve. So we could slide up here, around here, go around here. And the thing is, we've got onto here. What we really want to do is we kind of want to get into that cell so we can jump over to here potentially. So what could be helpful here? So in this configuration, the only space we can land on this herd is here. That doesn't feel great. That's basically where we were before. Guess maybe if we go down here, we could then get onto the other position of this herd. So it might be one that we have to keep reconfiguring it and keep getting on a different sheep in the herd. Because now we can jump off here, slide down here, jump over here, slide up here, and jump onto this position of the herd. Which then now means we could... what can we do from here? We can slide up to there. But again, I'm not sure that's super helpful. Slide over here, down here. Over to here. We'll go back up and slide down back to here. It's at the same position as when I started on the herd. Right, okay. Okay. I've got lost in this solution, so let's start it again. Because I think I'm onto the right idea. Because if we can get onto this position on the herd, we can lock it into there and we can get to that sheep. So I think we have to work our way reconfiguring this so we can jump to different positions. Okay. So, going back to where we started, we can doop, 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 doop. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we've done, top left in the herd. Then we realised we could do this and then this, which allows us to jump here, slide around, jump here. So now we've done top right of the herd. If we slide somewhere like that, can we then get into this position to jump over here? Can't see that obviously, because there's no way to stop up here. So what if we were to say here? Is that any better? No, because now we can't get off the herd at all. Could go here. Doesn't feel great because I think that's the position when we're on this space that we need to get to. We could go here, we could go here. That's not great because we still can't get onto here. Here doesn't let us get onto here. On here. Ah, yes, because what we can do is we can jump off, go round here. Instead of jumping this way to get back on, we can jump over this way, use the sheep to come back over here, jump onto here, slide into this position, jump up to here. Right. Then the question becomes, now we finally got to the single sheep, which was a bit of a journey, what do we do with it? So we now need to get to this position, so we could just zoop it straight to that position, but we then can't go anywhere. We can't continue, which is not useful. So I think we somehow need to get to a position where we can jump off it and do something useful with it. Now, if this is here, and we're going to assume this is the only place we can get onto the sheep from, which I'm not 100% sure of, but I think is likely. The only place we can really get to is the sheep. We can get to here, which is no good. We can go up here, which is no good. Or we can sort of come all the way around here. Which then does allow us to jump off. And potentially jump back onto our herd. Such a way that we can do that. Yes, because then if we can get back onto here, we can slide up to where we wanted it. Okay, so then we can jump off, slide around the houses, whoop, jump over, jump over. Although maybe what we do is we go up here, slide along here, down here. Yes, I think that's it, because then we can jump off here, we can jump over here, go right the way around the board, jump back onto this position, slide the whole herd up there, and jump off. Oh, that one is very cyclical. My goodness. All over the sheep in that one. Okay. Hey look, there's the optional challenge again that I'm not going to do. And then we have an advanced one here, and an advanced one here, another bird. So let's try and solve 26, if nothing else for now. And then we'll maybe look at one more mechanic before I wrap up for today. I will say at this stage, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not the best at sliding puzzles, as you're seeing, but this is very interesting. The sliding combined with the jumping mechanics. There's a lot of mileage coming out of mechanics that are all very simple to understand, and they're not making a huge possibility space, which is good, but it's that kind of like constant reconfiguration of things. Also, do not trust these crabs. I don't know if you can see that there, but that one's making a very suspicious looking symbol. And when I say I don't trust the crabs, what I obviously mean is I don't trust Blaj. But, okay, so, in this board, we have a bunch of walls. We have to get one shepherd there, a sheep here, and a sheep here. Now, if we have these pieces like this, right, there's no single sheep in this board, so this piece here cannot escape into this section. The only places it can sit are there, there, or there. This one being this position, I think it has to be at the end. Yeah. Now, the thing is, if this has to be the end position, we can't have a shepherd. Like, I think this shepherd already has to be there, because we'd have to move the shepherd into that position, slide this in, and then jump it off this way somehow. So I think we need to do this shepherd ending point before we can finish that. Similarly, this piece here has a limit to where it can go. It can go up and around here, it can go up here, it it can go up here, but it can never come into this final bit because this will always block it. Okay. So. Right. Let's do the obvious thing that will definitely not be correct. Which is to slide that up into there. Jump this here. Jump this up here. And then this can go into here. Now, that is already not correct because this can jump into here, but then it kind of gets stuck. The shepherd gets stuck over here. So, yeah. But let's do this similar to that, but don't move this one first. Where we jump here, we move this here. And then we could do the whole triple stack thing where we move stuff up here, slide this down, and then they all get stuck. That's not a great help. Although if we had a shepherd in this gap, they could jump across to this one. Interesting. My initial assumption might be completely wrong now I'm looking at this again. So let's have another think about this. So from this initial state, it's not very easy to get onto this double herd because I can slide up here or I can slide down here. This wall stops me from doing anything up the top. And yeah, I can't do a huge amount. Anyway, similarly from here I can slide over here and I can jump over here, but then I can't jump into this space because of this wall. So again, this kind of slides up and down, goes around there. What's essentially the way of the book for Am I Through? Well, there's still puzzles on page 98. And we're on page 34, 35, so maybe a third of the way through the book. And I will say explicitly that does not include any of the meta stuff that I'm seeing lots of hints for as well. I think I'm in chapter 1 and there is 2 chapters, so we're not anywhere near halfway through this. And obviously it gets slower the further through you get as well. But this is a very chunky, very nicely produced puzzle book. Okay, let's jump, let's slide. Chapter 2 has stuff. Well, let's see if we can maybe get to the 4th mechanic in chapter 1. I think that would be a good place to end it, and I'm still enjoying myself. We might have to potentially add a bit more, bring a bit more light in if it gets too dark outside, but hey. Now the problem with this here is it's basically the what do we do next problem. Getting a bit more light in. Because it is getting a bit dimmer outside. I'll let my camera adjust. Yeah, because again, we can jump here, we can slide down by jumping that one up here, but it doesn't help a huge amount. Yeah, not sure. Not sure that's the right way to go. I also don't really see a huge amount of other ways to go. Now if we slide that up out the way, jump, jump, slide, jump. Yeah, then we just get basically stuck here, don't we? Yeah, we can... I guess we can grab those, slide that across, jump that over there, jump that over there, slide all of these back, and then we've got both of the shepherds out of that corner. If that's what we want. So maybe that's what we want. Yeah, we could then jump, 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 slide, jump, slide, jump, which gets us on a different position on this herd, which, as we know, tends to be really important for solving things. I guess we could then slide that over here. Maybe slide that downwards. This can slide down here. This can jump over here. This can jump over here. But then that gets us... That maybe gets us somewhere useful, because yeah, we can jump back up here, slide, jump, slide this back up here. That's now solving that if we get the shepherd off it, which then means I think, yeah, we jump over here, slide, slide, jump off, and I think we're done. Oh, not quite. We need to get the shepherd back over here. Which... But we've done this bit. I think this is probably the most complicated part of this. So maybe if we move that, and we can slide, jump onto here and then slide this down. Slide this, jump here, move up. Jump this. It should be easy from here. Not quite seeing it just at the moment. Slide that. Jump, slide. Jump over here. Oh, I think I'm being silly, right? Because that, yeah, that can jump. That can slide. This can go up here. Jump here. I know, but then that gets... Problem is then we get to this situation where this can't leave. So what if we do something like sliding down here? Sliding up like this. Sliding there. That can slide up. This can... I feel like I'm going around in circles here. Probably because I'm almost certainly going around in circles. Okay, hang on. If I go here, move that here, I can then slide this to here, jump that one into that position, then at least lets me free that. Yeah, so then I can free that shepherd. That one can jump onto there. slide that on there. That can slide down. That can jump into there, move up there. That can slide back up. That can jump off. And I think there we are. That's the state. And I apologise so much to Blaž who's watching. It's so frustrating when you've designed a puzzle and someone is so close to it and they keep just not seeing it. Okay, so as we learned, stars mean more complicated puzzles. And we're going to skip those for today so we can see the other mechanics. So we've got one advanced puzzle there. Oh yeah, that one looks really difficult actually. We've got another advanced puzzle here, and we've moved fully into the sea by this point. We have a sneaky Lockberg over here hinting at this puzzle, which is cute because it's undersea, so it's been slightly blurred by the sea. Which then takes us to... this is the final thing that I think we probably need to know to at least partially solve the front cover. We know what these mean. Now we have holes as well. Okay, so holes. Holes are special tiles. Pieces get stuck in them. Holes don't present obstacles and don't stop movement. Pieces slide or jump over borders freely. Let the notches remind you of this. There's little kind of like arrow notches. When a piece fully enters the hole tile, it immediately becomes stuck. It stops and becomes permanently immovable. Only the piece directly touching the hole is stuck. Shepherds treat the stuck piece as a bump. They can jump over it, onto it, or from it. They can't slide when they're stuck on it. They can't slide through it. So, basically, I guess what it's saying is these pegs basically will catch anything that falls into them. I was about to say, yeah, a herd gets stuck in a hole only when all the sheep that are part of it are occupying a hole tile, otherwise it keeps on sliding. So it's basically, if something goes in, it will go junk and then fall into the hole, and now that's stuck forever. The bit I'm not certain about, but I'm going to assume, is that once it's down a hole, it can't jump out the hole again. It becomes like a bump like we saw before. Also, suspicious. So we couldn't, for example, if we had a shepherd there, jump back out of the hole. But if there's a shepherd on there, it could jump. So in this one, it feels like, for example, we'd need to get a sheep and a shepherd so we can get to the final space at the end. And I guess what it's saying over here is, if we were to slide this, here it's not stuck because it's not fallen down the hole yet. But the second it would get here, that would like clunk down the hole and become stuck. So, in this one we have one sheep, two shepherds. So, and only the piece directly touching the hole is stuck. So, I'm assuming what we need to do on this is slide, slide, jump, throw a sheep down a hole, then the difficulties now is how do we get that shepherd off the sheep that's been hoofed down a hole, because this can't then get to a position that is useful for us really. So I still think we probably want to do this to jump on the sheep, but then we probably want to do something like moving this up here so we can then move the sheep up here. Try to see if there's a way to get something else in a useful position for us. So I guess we could do something like that and then throw this shepherd down the hole first. But the problem is if we do that, then yeah, we can move this down here and we can jump across there, but then obviously the sheep can't move because all of its shepherds have fallen down a well. So that's not super helpful. So one of these does have to be the sheep, and I'm sure the sheep has to be that one because the sheep can't jump. So we need a sheep in here and a shepherd in here. The shepherd needs to be on that sheep so they can then jump off at the end. And remember, we can't jump over something without a bump or something in it. So even if we are like this, we can't jump off to the end. Okay, so let's do this. In fact, instead of that, let's do this. Yeah, because then we can drive that, put the sheep down there, put that one there. Which I think solves our problem, because we can jump that one over there, jump that one over there. I think I was overcomplicating the tutorial puzzle for holes. Okay, so building on that, what we were just talking about, we have multi-sheep herds. So for example, if this slid up here, not stuck, not stuck, now it's stuck. Or indeed, now it's stuck. So we need to be careful about how we steer the multi-piece herds. So it's a good diagram up here. It can slide over the single one into there. I guess the other thing to remember is that holes in the middle of a puzzle don't stop it. It will just slide across it unless it falls in as well. Okay. So if we need to get a shepherd here, I think we need probably this configuration. Because the shepherd will need to jump over that sheep onto this part of the herd and off that way. Because the only way to get here, assuming we're not allowed to jump over this, if you haven't been told anything about yet, and adjacency was weird in previous games, but I'm going to assume this is off the board and not allowed, is to jump from here. And the only way to get to this space is to jump from the space we need to get to, or here. So that means we probably need a sheep here, and we probably need the herd here. So if I was designing this, I would make really damn clear that you had to dangle over a lot of holes before you fell down. So my suspicion is we'd have to jump over here, and then we can go up to here, where we've not fallen down the hole, here, where we've not fallen down the hole, here, and then here, where we've not fallen down the hole. Just to really hammer in the point. And then we can use that to jump off here onto the sheep. The only slight worry I then have is if we go up there, we fall down a hole. Of course, the other way we can do this is being on this space when we fall down the hole. That's the other way we can do this. So if we were to do something like this, for example, then jump it, we can jump the sheep down the hole here, and we can jump off and go like this. But that's not quite perfect, because we want to be on the other sheep in this herd. So yeah, we can sort of bounce around a little bit. We're always going to have a bit of trouble, I think, from this position. Yeah, but that is interesting. So let's do the whole jumping to there. Go a slightly different route. But yeah, it has to be this one that falls in the hole if we're going to do that trick. Because if this sheep falls just in the hole there, there's no way to get this to jump over. And there's a gap here, so we can't jump. And if we fall in there, we can't jump into there either, because we can't slide off a bump, remember. Or indeed, an immobile sheep that's been thrown down a hole, which now acts like a bump. Okay. So if we move up there. So what I'm saying is this one, we don't want to fall down this hole, I don't think. So it's good to get us to the sheep here. So I think we have to do that in order to get back onto this herd. But then I don't think that's what we want to do longer term. You were completely right with bumps just being sheep glued to the ground. Or in this case, I think more accurately sheep that have been buried in a hole. Not sure if that's any better. So to get onto here, we'd have to have the sheep somewhere like this so we could then jump over, I think. Which is potentially feasible. It is potentially feasible if we don't just immediately throw a sheep into a pit like we've been doing. The difficulty is we can do something like this, but then how do we get back to this herd? So right from... yeah. So we jump onto there. We can jump here. We can slide here. We can slide here. Oh, the trick to the none of the puzzles is believing in myself. Because right now, I don't believe in myself. But that's fine. I'll believe in myself when I've figured something out. See, we could get off there, but it's not very helpful. I'm sure this is the only starting move we can really do, right? Jumping onto there, because yeah, we can slide there, we can slide up there, and then our options are pit, pit, or sliding back down here. So I'm sure we have to jump on there as a starting move. And then if we're on here, the only way we can jump onto that one is by getting into the position we were, where we do doot, 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 doot. We can't fall into there without getting this sheep out of the way. It feels like this, it has to be this. But then I don't know. Okay, then we can... oh, that now blocks us. So we can now slide, 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 slide. So we could then jump off there. It's not super helpful. Because... yeah, sort of then what do we do? Jump there? We could jump there. Because then we can slide there. Jump, slide, slide, jump, slide, slide, jump. Throw the sheep in a hole. Jump to where we want to. Ah, always about seeing that one little sneaky little trick. Okay. So, apparently page 45 is end of chapter 1, so let's see if we can get to the end of chapter 1 for this stream. And then, you know, maybe I will embarrass myself horrendously trying to do chapter 2 at some point. It looks like we're going underground in this chapter. Remember, to solve a puzzle, there can be no stacks on end tiles. Good to know. Ooh, no. Okay. So in this one, we have this one doing a lot of dangling. This one here. A bunch of walls that we're going to need to keep an eye on all over the shop. Interesting. So I think if, for example, we did this, actually this wall, if we then tried to slide downwards, not that we can, if we ignore that bump, but that wall would mean I think we'd have to stop there. But we can't do that because of the bump anyway. But anyway, our first move in this is completely constrained, right? The shepherd, the only place that can move, cannot go anywhere apart from to jump on this triplet. So we jump there. I think this then allows us to slide over here, bump off that wall, and slide down, and slide across. And slide down, that's valid, because we've still got one holding us up. And then I think we can then slide, slide, slide. Yes, but what it's saying is now, we'd love to be able to just slide up to there and complete the puzzle, but we can't because there is a stack on this herd still, and we can't jump off that in any direction. So, I think that means we need to be on this space by the time we get up here, because then we can throw our shepherd down a hole. And as we all know, throwing a shepherd down a hole is apparently victory in this game now. Okay, so let's keep an eye out. We have to do that. And then the only meaningful move we can do after that is go over here, I'm pretty sure. And then we can jump off, but would go into a hole, so there's no real point. Jump down, slide down even, slide down, slide across, slide down, slide across, slide up. I'm sure we need to use that bump somehow. Now slide across. We could slide up, but maybe instead what we do is we slide down and down and around up like this. Yes, because now we can use that bump. That bump allows us to jump over to there. So that allows us to slide back here, jump back on the herd. Now, if we were to do sliding and then up there again, we're in the same position, because this can't jump. Oh, well actually no, I think we can, can't we? If this counts as a space up there, then we can just jump over in this direction and jump into the void, and that does it for us. Yeah, no, I can see why that puzzle was designed to help with the dangling mechanic. Okay. Oh, it looks like our sheep are bioluminescent. Good sheep. And they don't look particularly happy. Yeah, the shepherd will be fine. So suspicious that there's all this pathway not part of the main puzzle that definitely looks like it connects to like a mega puzzle. So deeply suspicious. Yes, it could be decoration, but I still don't believe you when you say it's just aesthetics. I mean, the temptation to pull out all the pages and like put them across my wall with red string between them is very strong. Anyway, ignoring what is allegedly not a meta puzzle, but I still don't believe, this part here is all enclosed by walls, so we can't engage with the rest of this page anyway. Well, they are perforated. That's where the rings go through. Okay, clearing this up for a second. All we need to do, and I was actually missing a piece because we need a sheep down here. All we need to do is get a sheep here. And the designer of this book has said in the chat, They really like this one, but it's tricky, which is a scary thing to hear. So effectively, this feels like it's going to be a bit like Rush Hour puzzle, because we're going to have to get this kind of out the way. Because while we can get the shepherds here quite easily over the bump, fundamentally we need to somehow get everything out of the way so we can slide this round, put this in here, and then jump that out over there. Oh, thank you very much, North and Nowhere, for the bits. Have you tried Herd for yourself? Now, to get this out of the way, I think the only way we can get this out of the way is by putting this over here. I strongly recommend it. There is I think there's a print and play version as well, if you don't want to buy the full physical edition, although the full physical edition is very nice. Okay. Just looking at where to really start on this one. Let's jump there and then we can slide this. And this can slide round here and down here and jump. Tiffany's going to be getting onto that. Yeah, we're going to have to throw a shepherd in that pit, I think. But then how do we... Oh. We're going to have to throw a shepherd stack into that pit. If you throw a shepherd stack into that pit, the bottom one gets stuck, but then we can jump over this bump onto this sheep. Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, we're in the, I guess, fourth mechanic of the first chapter. We're not going to be doing the second chapter today. We're going to be finishing out this chapter, apart from the advanced puzzles. And then we'll call it a day, because we're coming up to 2 3/4 hours now, and I'm definitely loving this, but my brain is starting to hurt. Okay, so where we were doing all that. Then this can slide down here. This can slide across here. Then if we slide this up here, along here, down here, jump here, and go over to here, jump this, slide around here, move this over here, and we get our shepherd stack. The question is, can we then get the shepherd stack in the pit? Not obviously straight away. Oh no! Shepherd's down. So this can slide and slide and slide down here, but then I think we get a bit stuck trying to get them. So I think maybe actually we need this here to start off with. That would let us get the... That would let us throw the shepherd stack in. Then we'd have to come and move this later. So yeah, I suspect that's where we have to start. So, let's jump. We'll jump that one over here as well to get that out of the way temporarily. So that then allows us to slide, slide, slide. Jump this over here. Slide this back here. No, jump that over there. Put that there. And then we can move, jump. The question is then, how do we get the stack from here? I guess what we could do is we could actually slide that back there for now. Jump over there, come back round, jump onto there, and then we have a shepherd stack. Then we throw the shepherd stack in the hole. Ah, bye Pop Honky, thanks for joining. Now the shepherd stack is in the hole, we can get to the sheep again. And this also allows us to get back onto here. Yeah. So this can now jump over there. We can then use this to slide up and around. Then we can jump off, come around, jump onto here, slide that into here. This is so... Hang on, there's a wall there, isn't there? Ah, damn you, I wanted to jump over. I wanted to jump over onto this one, but I'm not allowed. Because we could have jumped into there and then maybe done something from there, although I'm not sure we can. So... So if we jump there, yeah, the problem is then basically we can't get off this herd. You're not in a fail state yet, still solvable from here. That's, I think, motivational. Oh, hang on, if we're here, jump, we go around here, we can jump over to here, still allows us to jump off this direction. Does that help us at all? Oh, maybe, because we can then move, jump, slide. Yes, and then we can jump, slide, jump, and then slide that, and then jump that off. Man, that is... That is a very clever design. I'm hoping those exclamation marks mean I didn't mess something up, but I think that all worked in my head. Oh man, yeah. These designs are very, very clever. Not that I expect anything else, having played your previous games. Oh, there's a flower. Love in memory of the fallen. Oh no. Oh no. Many fall along the journey, they are mourned and gravely missed, but the caravan persists. Home is a prize, they have to earn it. So this is an advanced puzzle here. So what we'll do is we'll solve this one, we'll skip the advanced puzzles, and then we'll have a very, very brief look, potentially at the intro to chapter 2, but then we will call it. So, let's see if we can do this kind of like final or penultimate major puzzle in chapter 1. So, we have one that goes there, we have one that goes there, we have our 2 shepherds here, and this is our end position that we're trying to get to. Okay, so if we look at how this puzzle works at a high level, we're all basically hemmed in, or mostly hemmed in by the walls. We effectively have to get... I think we have to fill these spaces up, right? Because we need to jump from here onto here, which means there needs to be something there. We need to get here, we need to jump from here, which means there needs to be something here and here. So to do that with the pieces we've got, right, we effectively need, we need this here or here. We need a sheep thrown down the hole, and we need a shepherd thrown down the hole. Now this would be valid if we got into this state, because then we could slide around, jump, jump, jump. So this is potentially the state that we want to get to, because this state isn't quite as helpful because we can't get onto this first sheep properly. Okay. So, remembering our walls, this is currently locked in because of this sheep up here. So we need to figure out a way to get to this sheep first, I think, and move that out of the way. Shouldn't be too difficult. Do something like that. Now, the difficulty is, again, remember that we want to be really careful over here, because once we throw a shepherd down a hole, the shepherd is down the hole. Also, I think we need to get this around first, if at all possible. So if we slide this, we can slide this out of the way a little bit, slide this up here, jump on here. That then allows us to move this. This can go up here. I hope that means we can then get this roughly where we want it. I think so. Yeah, because we can do that. Slide this up here. Throw that sheep down the hole. There is a wall. Damn you. Yep, okay. So we can't do that. I felt that was too easy. So, let's try that again. I think we were right in trying to get this sheep out of the way. I think we were right in trying to jump onto here. So now we can slide like this. Move this up here. That will slide that like that. You can slide this out the way. Slide that up here. But now, yeah, the problem is we can't get the sheep where we want it. Because if we can move there, we can get it up there, but we can't. So instead, we probably need to get the sheep in that gap. Which I think I've probably fluffed up. Because this is not necessarily, the moves are not necessarily reversible when you've got holes around, causing you problems. So, let's get this sheep over into that space. But when we do have the sheep in that space, yeah, when we do have the sheep in that space, we can't navigate this around, right? Because if we just say that we've done all this, right? We can get it here, but the problem is we then can't because this will move it up and around. Even if we could get it here, this is then completely locked. This stuff cannot move at all. Which means even if we put that in here, I think it is actually impossible to get to that perfect configuration because this can't move that way. Which means that the configuration might have to be this. But then the difficulty will be, how do we then get people onto this? So it might have to be that we have to... it might have to be that we put that one in at the end as a whole stack. So then that can jump off onto here. And these can jump. Oh. Well, there you go. Convince someone to buy the game. I will take my commission in, nice European chocolate. And that is a joke, to be clear. Okay, so, assuming that we have to get that stack, let's work towards that. Think about how could we get that stack going. I know one way we could potentially get that stack going. Slide that up there, slide that down here, slide that back down. Could then jump off here. Not convinced that helps. Might help. Not sure. Might help. Slide this, slide this, slide this, slide this. then come back down, jump off onto a different space here. And if we slide this back up here, slide this over there, then we can potentially get the stack. The problem is a little bit... No, that shouldn't be a problem actually, because if we go from here, we can slide up into here. It's one of those, it feels really close, but I'm not sure it is as close as I'd like it to be. I think maybe we want to try and get onto that space. So if we slide that back down here, jump that off, jump that like this, swap this around like this, that can land on there. The reason I'm thinking of getting into that space is because then, if we move this all the way up here, then we can jump across there, although that's now we're not in the right position. Because we really need to have this here for that to work. Oh, but yes, no, because that can then come back round here. That can now jump onto there. This can do the mega stack all the way around. Then jump, then jump, then jump. And I think that gets us there. Man, these are getting very brain bendy, but very satisfying to solve when you see the realization. Okay, yeah. Many fall along the journey, they are mourned and gravely missed, but the caravan persists. Home is a prize, they have to earn it. Thank you, chat. So, this is an advanced puzzle that we're going to skip for today. This is another advanced puzzle we're going to skip for today. Also, oh my god, why is there a shepherd all the way out here that you need to get over here somehow? Oh no. Yeah, you'll need to do some absolute, like... Oh my god. Yeah, some absolute nonsense about probably, like, throwing this in a pit down here. We're not going to look at that for now, or I'm going to get distracted. There is a lesson on the path waiting to be met and learned, a single road between the turn, stretching out without an end. Only if it never stops, the journey form becomes apparent. What seems like land that's barren is in truth a field of crops. This is deeply suspicious aesthetic stuff again. So, I guess technically this isn't a puzzle, but you know, it's a nice excuse to put all of your pieces around a campfire, which is very Lock if you've played Lock. So you can have all the pieces warming themselves around the campfire, which is really cute. Okay. So, all of that being said, that is... It's a very chill bonfiring scene, absolutely. Now, all being said, we're at the end of chapter 1. Again, suspicious bird, very suspicious snake or worm, and potentially solvable puzzle. That terrifies me. That entry diagram to chapter 2 terrifies me. If we end up on Mobius strips or Klein bottles, yeah, that's going to be a bit tricky. But I'm not going to go into chapter 2 right now. I think I'm going to save that either if you want to play it for yourself or for me to come back to another week. I don't want to spoil myself. But I will say, how do I phrase this? I love... Do you want me to look at chapter 2, Blash? I mean, I can turn the page if you want, but I didn't want to spoil it. What I will say is I've now played Lock, Abdeck, and Work, And if you've played those ones, you'll know that these are all really solid puzzles. What I would say really explicitly is that they all tend to be kind of different levels of kind of kind towards the player. Work in particular, I really like, but is really difficult if you don't have very good spatial awareness. This in particular, because you have the physical characters moving around like a real life grid, actually I think it's one of the more gentle introductions to this style of rule discovery kind of puzzle games, because it's quite physical. It doesn't require you having to visualize a lot in your own head, which certainly work does, and to a certain extent Abdeck does as well. This one feels a bit closer, at least in chapter 1, to the structure of kind of Lock and Lock Digital, where it doesn't feel like you have to keep too much structure in your head, which is really, really nice. So if you're up for trying these sorts of rule discovery puzzle games, I think this would be a really good introduction to this sort of thing. It's also really nicely produced. The box is lovely. This book is really nice. You have kind of all these really satisfying to use pieces. In particular, this action, really satisfying. Really satisfying when you have the herds, in particular of the shepherds. So if you've got an interest in this, I would recommend going and checking it out. If you search for Herd and Letterbus design, which if we go back to the front cover, search for Herd, you will easily find it online. Now, having said all of that, if you're not interested in getting the next bit spoiled, look away now, because I'm gonna turn the next page, but I'm gonna give you all a chance to run away before I do so. I'm not going to solve any puzzles in chapter 2 because it's now well over the 3-hour mark of the stream, but I'm going to take a look. So you gone? Okay, because this is going to go on YouTube as well. Oh no, multi-page puzzles. Yeah. The golden rule: all numbered puzzles can be solved with your current knowledge. You will never need to look for hidden or unexplained clues. Yeah. A piece or stack can traverse between pages of the book if tiles on 2 consecutive pages are horizontally adjacent across borders. In this case, the page border doesn't stop movement, and the piece stack slides or jumps over the border to another page. And it loops. So, yeah. It's not Mobius strips, it's not Klein bottles. Technically, it's a torus. But that doesn't necessarily... that doesn't necessarily make it super easy. I guess the thing here is, if we were to look at this very first puzzle... I mean, technically, this very first puzzle is just this, right? This solves it. But I then assume that once you've solved it, the idea is you're supposed to move your pieces across. The square at the end is giving you, I guess, a hint that it's linked over here as well. And then you could jump and jump, slide off the top, come along the bottom, keep going. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. So we would go around, we would go up, we'd go this way, we'd come back down here, come all the way around. Apparently this counts as a checkpoint. And then we would come up and down and around and off this way. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. I think I will be coming back to this because I suspect chapter 2 is going to be ridiculous. Like, I suspect deeply, deeply ridiculous in a really delightful way. If you know anything about the games I've designed previously, things like Solas, you will know that I'm a big fan of puzzles that escape the boundaries of single screens and go and interfere and do nonsense things on other screens. So I will say we have maybe done about less than half of the book, maybe a third of the book. So chapter 2 is also going to be bigger and more complicated. It also, I will say, makes me feel even more certain that some of the stuff that we saw earlier, like this stuff, is relevant, particularly when we consider the hint at the very, very front of the book. This hint here, and this secret URL that I'm assuming that's the symbol one of the crabs was making. Sorry, distracting myself here, but that was one of the symbols the suspicious crab was making. That symbol. Ah, classic. Anyway, there is a lot of meta stuff going on here that we'll have to dig into another time. Thank you. I need to get back working on CRT 7. It is going to be still quite a lot to do there. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Maybe next weekend or in 2 weekends' time I'm going to come back and we're going to continue on chapter 2 because, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Thanks for watching, and good to have you, Blauge, in the chat to nudge me. I will say I was quite surprised. I only needed one major nudge, so that's good. Otherwise, if you're watching this live or you're watching this later on, I hope you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, go pick this up if you want, if this seems like your sort of thing, because I guarantee it is, if you've liked having me play through some of these levels. Alright, have a good evening all.